Following the call, the stock experienced a big reaction, which I believe was caused by the fact that, well, people were pleasantly surprised by results that exceeded forecasts because of the vehicle platform's rather aggressive cost reductions. They claim to have hit a record price of almost $35,100 per car. Therefore, I believe that was the main focus of the street. Naturally, autonomy has been our main focus, and Sam, you've been concentrating on the humanoid robots that will be present at the Y Robot show in the future. We have also had some internal discussions regarding this. I had the impression that they were supposed to divulge far more information than they actually did. When comparing the Y Robot event to other product debuts, I don't believe there was much of a change. Therefore, it's obvious that they were waiting for a more investor-style gathering to discuss those specifics, or perhaps they wanted to purposefully keep things more under wraps now that they're actually getting near to launch. The significant news is that we now know that Tesla is now developing a ride-hailing network in California with ambitions to launch it the following year. It should come as no surprise that they plan to deploy it with safety drivers. They said that some states have regulations about it, According to a California law, you must first have a safety driver, and then you must reach a certain amount of time or miles before you can remove that person from the vehicle. Therefore, it's not entirely obvious what Texas laws are. They must be more forgiving. In California, I am aware that there are additional requirements. However, what does this signify? We've been stating for a while that Tesla might launch a human-driven ride-hail service, even if it takes some time to solve for full autonomy, or, for example, to attain regulatory approval for a fully autonomous taxi service. We know that the cost of maintenance and operating an electric vehicle is around a third of that of an Uber car. So they already have a better cost structure than the average Uber car. Thus, there are numerous tactical and strategic justifications for doing so. In any case, it appears that this is how things will proceed in the beginning. The only question now is when they will take the driver out. We've been estimating a 60/40th chance for 2025 and 2026. Based on the announcement, it appears to still be in effect, so I'm rather excited. There is more to Tesla's remarkable success than merely watching from the sidelines. Seeking Alpha is your one-stop shop for the most recent information on Tesla, Elon Musk, Tesla innovation, and stock price targets for bulls, and those with an eye for finding the next big thing in the stock market. Our channel may receive a commission if a customer makes a purchase after clicking on the affiliate links in the description. We are aware that as of right now, software releases often occur on Hardware 4 vehicles first, followed by Hardware 3 vehicles. Well, particularly with the most recent iterations of the entire suite of self-driving software, particularly version 12.5, which was a significant upgrade. Additionally, Tesla stated that they were, shifting to this one model strategy. I talked to some people at the Y Robot event, and they told me that using an end-to-end system is actually a simpler way to accomplish this. And when I say one model, I mean one model for the Hardware 3 and Hardware 4 cars. Elon stated at the Y Robot event that he didn't want to discuss the specifics of Hardware 3 and 4, so I made a guess that, well, it's still likely that they begin with Hardware 4, and it appears that's what they're doing, so it's not that shocking. And to give you the facts, there are about 6 million cars worldwide, roughly speaking, a 50-50 split between Hardware 3 and Hardware 4. Additionally, almost half of those 6 million are in the United States, so if they wish to start there, they still have a good number of cars on the Hardware 4 platform. The strategy then calls for changing the model and essentially compressing it slightly in order to make it backwards integratable, as the inference chip on Hardware 3 has different power and memory limitations than Hardware 4. Elon went on to say that they would replace the hardware system if it didn't work. There is a panel on the car that lifts out that you can actually swap out, and that inference chip is something that Tesla has been doing for a long now, ever since they started manufacturing their own inference chip and moving away from NVIDIA. Although it may seem complicated, they have prepared for this many years in advance, just in case they need to do it. As a Hardware 3 owner, you are aware that you may not be the first to register your car on the platform. It definitely gives you some incentives to move to Hardware 4 if you so choose, and you could even use the Tesla incentives to do so. However, as I mentioned earlier, I believe that in the long run, they will want to make it work because they have enough cars on Hardware 3. I believe that they will find a way to make it work. The only question is how. We have categorized the market according to price points, and there is a certain amount of market at the current prices of Uber and Lyft. There's not much of a market opportunity, roughly $200 billion at a price point of $2 to $4. Then there's a significant segment of the market where we've conducted some research based on people's time values. When you consider that the average cost of owning a car in the United States is about $1 in Western markets, it sort of makes sense. After you extend below the dollar, markets like China come into play on a global scale. We had it at 50 cents, but it appears like it's closer to 30 cents per mile, China. There, ride-hail fares have somewhat decreased. In actuality, the entire worldwide opportunity is over $10 trillion, and it is true that the lower you go below the $1 pricing point, which is essentially the key to unlocking this opportunity, the larger the market opportunity becomes compared to what Uber and Lyft currently have. It's quite difficult to forecast when a breakthrough in AI will occur. Without a doubt, Elon has been somewhat pushy in his goals. You may also contend that Tesla's current success can be attributed to its aggressive or optimistic goal setting. However, I would even zoom out and say, all of the automakers promised to produce autonomous vehicles by 2019. Therefore, I don't believe Tesla is the only one who is overly optimistic. Simply said, they may be much more open and specific about their aims, which has resulted in increased criticism. I contend that you're paying for what is likely the best driver assistance function available and undoubtedly the most advanced in terms of the future. Additionally, all of the other automakers that provide hands-free driving, all of them are geofenced, meaning they are on specific roadways. It's not, and Tesla didn't want to adopt that kind of limited, geofenced approach, which is why it's potentially a challenging challenge to solve. However, I believe that they will eventually reach the point where they can operate hands-free. Therefore, I believe that although you are paying for future capabilities, you are also paying for your car to improve overnight and for you to have to exert less effort as a driver, though you must still pay attention today, of course. Due to its length, continued in the next message.